So the first question that we have is from Ashish. Obviously, it's a reading comprehension question. This looks like more like a, it's not bank exam model, looks like a GMAT or a CAT model. But either ways, but the thing is, I think it's good for us to practice those sort of questions because most of the questions in bank exams also, they're upgrading, right? They kind of borrow questions from the quality of the questions are equivalent to CAT or GMAT. So it's better we practice those sort of questions also so that we're not surprised during the exam. Yeah. So I remember seeing this question in the forum and Ashish was basically like, I didn't understand anything about this passage. Like he didn't follow the passage at all. That's what he says. So we'll break it down. Most of you might be able to follow. Let's quickly, so reading comprehension, if you were part of the refresher session, you know that there are certain steps that we need to follow, right? Step 1 is to analyze the questions and then see if there are any vocabulary based questions. Mostly CAT GMAT will not have vocabulary based questions. Bank model exams, yes. You can definitely expect at least 4 or 5, right? 2 synonyms, 2 antonyms, things like that. Okay, so let's look at this passage here. Let's analyze the questions first, okay? According to the passage, which is the following, does not stem from popular wisdom on language. So our clue phrases are popular wisdom and we're looking at does not stem. So which means nothing related to or something contrary to popular wisdom, right? That's what we need to look out for. Which of the following can be used to replace the spiders know how to spin web? So basically, this is more like a phrase, right? Which is probably a part of the passage, obviously. And they've given options. We need to choose which option mirrors or is in line with that phrase. According to the passage, which of the following is unique to human beings? Okay. According to the passage, the complexity of language cannot be taught by parents or at school to children because, so most of these are, anyway, we have to fall back on the passage. Which of the following best summarizes the passage? Title, summary. Okay, that's about it. Now, let's go attack the passage, okay? The best way to, now we're going to do this slightly differently, right? Because we'll have to, we're breaking it down and we're trying to analyze the passage. So how we'll do this is, I will go on a slow mode, okay, slow motion mode, which is ideally what you should do when you are practicing. We're gonna quickly skim through the passage and every paragraph that we look at, we're gonna quickly summarize it, okay, just for an understanding. Now there could be, don't worry about new and unfamiliar words which are bothering your comprehension. Let's look at the overall gist of the passage, okay. Reading. Language is not a cultural artifact that we learn the way we learn to tell time or how the federal government works. So basically, we understand that the entire passage is about language. I mean, if you look at all of the topic sentences, right, thinking of language, one way to kind of figure out this is a very long topic sentence in the 3rd paragraph, right? The best way to do that is just quickly to look at the topic sentence and closing sentence of each paragraph. Yeah? Yes, in fact, the 3rd paragraph, the first sentence is a topic sentence and then you have the last sentence which is the closing sentence. That's it. That's the whole paragraph. It's just 2 long sentences, right? And even in the last paragraph you look at it. So we understand that the entire passage is about language, okay? Finally, since language, yeah, you're getting the point, right? And even when we skim through the questions, we have an idea. So language is not a cultural artifact that we learn the way we learn to tell time or how the federal government works. Instead, it is a distinct piece of the biological makeup of our brains. Language is a complex, specialized skill which develops in the child spontaneously without conscious effort or formal instruction. So this is a valid point for us to keep in mind because when I was skimming through the questions, one of the questions was leaning towards this, right? So what I want you to do is when you are approaching reading comprehension passages, right, automatically you should tune your mind to be able to connect the dots. The reason why you're skimming or analyzing the questions is not just to identify the keywords and to look for that. It is also to understand retain the question. So when you're reading the passage, you have an idea what to look for, right? There are 2-3 things that happen while you're analyzing the questions. So you will have to exercise your mind to a level where you're able to do 2 or 3 of those aspects just by analyzing the questions. Yeah, blah 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 is deployed without awareness of its underlying logic, is qualitatively the same in every individual and is distinct from more general abilities to process information or behave intelligently. Okay, for these reasons, same cognitive scientists have described language as a psychological faculty, a mental organ, a neural system, and a computational module. But I prefer the admittedly quaint term instinct. It conveys the idea that people know how to talk in more or less the sense that spiders know to spin webs. Here's one of the other questions that we saw, right? They had put this and they had given some options and they wanted us to choose which is the closest one, which is conveying the same meaning as this phrase. Web spinning was not invented by some unsung spider genius and does not depend on having had the right education or on having an aptitude for architecture or the construction trades. Rather, spiders spin spider webs because they have spider brains, which give them the urge to spin and the competence to succeed. Although there are differences between webs and words, I will encourage you to see language in this way, for it helps to make sense of the phenomena we will explore. So this entire first paragraph, right, is talking about, boss, language is not some scientific thing. Language is not something that you have to spend time learning or acquiring. They're saying language is an instinct thing for human beings. It's something that develops naturally, right? Like babies, if you speak, my 2.5-year-old son, if I speak 2-3 languages, he's able to understand that. Where is he picking that up? Just by listening to me, right? I am not sitting and teaching him every day. E, right? So even though the focus is more on A, B, C, D, he's still able to pick up Tamil and Telugu and other languages, right? So what they're trying to say is this entire, and there's one reference made, how spiders spin webs, like that they want you to relate language, right? Nobody is taught the spider. What an intricate, complex structure the spider web is. Nobody taught the spider to do that. It's something instinct for the spider. It's something natural. So they're comparing these two, right? This is the gist of the first para. Great. Now let's go. Let's move ahead. Second para. Thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom, especially as it has been passed down in the canon of the humanities and social sciences. Remember, we had popular wisdom in our first question. That's a term that we need to focus on. So thinking of language as an instinct inverts, which means language being instinctive is completely contradicting what the popular wisdom is. What is the popular wisdom? We'll see. Language is no more a cultural invention, right? That then is upright posture. It is not a manifestation of general capacity to use symbols. 3-year-old, we shall see, is a grammatical genius, but is quite incompetent at the visual arts, religious iconography, traffic science, and other staples of the semiotics curriculum. So what are they saying? So even though you have a lot of these, what is semiotics? What is iconography? It doesn't matter. You don't have to know the meaning. No problem. What is that? What is those 2 sentences saying? It's saying, boss, if you look at a 3-year-old kid, the first thing that he will pick up is language, right? By the time he finishes 3 years old, he'll be able to give 2 or 3 sentences, complete sentences, which will be grammatically right. So they're saying the first thing that a child is able to acquire is grammar. He will not know to differentiate between traffic signal signs. He will not know what green or yellow or red means unless the parent is teaching him, right? So that's what they're saying. Let's move on. Though language is a magnificent ability unique to Homo sapiens among living species, it does not call for sequestering the study of humans from the domain of biology. For a magnificent ability unique to a particular living species is far from unique in the animal kingdom. Same kinds of bats home in on flying insects using Doppler sonar. Some kinds of migratory birds navigate thousands of miles by calibrating the positions of the constellations against the time of day and year. So they're saying, even though language is unique to human beings, every species has its own instinct ability when it comes to language, and they've given examples. right? We don't have to read into it. They've given examples of some bats. What do they do? Some migratory birds. What do they do? Okay, fine, no problem. I don't need to focus on that because it's not part of any of the questions. Anyway, when I analyzed it, they didn't ask for any of the examples. Chalo, forget it. Next paragraph. In nature's talent show, we are simply a species of primate with our own act. A knack for communicating information about who did what to whom by modulating the sounds we make when we exhale. Once you begin to look at language not as the ineffable essence of human uniqueness, but as a biological adaptation to communicate information, it is no longer as tempting to see language as an insidious shaper of thought, and we shall see it is not. Okay, now this sentence, I agree, is slightly complicated, right? Because it's just too many language nuances in it. But basically what it's saying is, don't just, yes, language is unique to human beings, no doubt about it. But what they're also saying is, think of it as something that happens naturally, like a biological adaptation. Something that happens naturally, like our organs in our body. How it develops naturally, that's how it is supposed to develop, right? Like from a little cell to a baby forming all the limbs and the nose and the features and everything. It's something very biological. Yeah, that's all you need to know. Moreover, seeing language is one of nature's engineering marvels, an organ with that perfection of structure and co-adaptation which just excites our admiration. Yeah, in Darwin's words, gives us a new respect for your ordinary Joe and the much maligned English language or any language. So basically, again, what they're saying is, how we admire when a child starts talking, right? Like the mother and father will know the importance and the excitement that they feel when the child even utters their name first or gives a complete sentence. They'll be like, wow, it's something to be admired. It's just like that. They're comparing language. That's about it. Last paragraph. The complexity of language from the scientist's point of view is part of our biological birthright. It is not something that parents teach their children or something that must be elaborated in school, as Oscar Wilde said. Education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth knowing can be taught. A preschooler's tacit knowledge of grammar is more sophisticated than the thickest style manual or the most state-of-the-art computer language system. And the same applies to all healthy human beings, even the notorious syntax fracturing professional athlete and the, like inarticulate teenage skateboarder. That particular line that I read, tacit knowledge, I mean, just tacit alone, but otherwise, a notorious syntax fracturing professional athlete. Never mind. So basically, what that passage is saying is, education, right? So basically, they're saying, boss, if Anand, Swati, Nilesh, Reha learns something today, right? It's not just theoretical, bookish knowledge. Right? I mean, with the examples, this passage is cruel, with the examples that have been given, right? I'm able to relate it to personal experiences. I'm using examples from my life experiences, right? And that's what you're able to relate to. So they're saying education is not about theory. Whatever people learn is more to do with the experiences that they go through, practical knowledge. That's why there's a hue and cry about changing the education system, especially in India, because we focus more on bookish knowledge, right? Theory. Why do graduates suffer getting into the right stream, getting into the right industry, even after completing and getting a degree? Because they don't have the practical knowledge. They are not equipped to even clear an interview after 20 years of education. That's sad, right? So they're saying, this paragraph is talking about, boss, whatever you study and you come out will not be enough for you to sustain or survive in life. You will learn only after that, through your experiences. Nothing can be taught. Everything that you learn is through your practical life experiences. Last paragraph, let's finish this. Where were we? Blah, blah, blah. Finally, since language is the product of a well-engineered biological instinct, we shall see that it is not nutty barrel of monkeys that entertainer columnists make it out to be. Now, Ashish, do you have an idea about what the passage is talking about? You have an idea, right? It's all about language is instinct. Okay, so by I totally get it that a lot of you feel it's slightly at a higher level. It is, like I said, this is not bank level language, right? First of all, there are very complicated, long, complex sentences. On top of it, there are new and unfamiliar words which will definitely hinder your comprehension. Yeah. Now, let's attack the questions. Question number 1. According to the passage, which of the following does not stem from popular wisdom on language? Yeah. We shall see that it is not a nutty barrel of monkeys that entertainer columnists make it out to be. So, what are our options? So anyway, we saw where popular wisdom came, right? Right here, second paragraph. Thinking of a language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom. Let's keep that in mind, okay? Let's look at our options. Option 1, language is a cultural artifact. We know that it is not because the first line says language is not a cultural artifact. Bye-bye. Language is an instinct. Yes, we know that is what it is. Language is a cultural invention. No, that is not, because it says your language is no more a cultural invention. Yeah, so that is also out. Language is learnt as we grow. No, we are just saying, boss, it develops naturally. We don't have to teach language to a child, blah, blah, blah. So which of these options is the answer, my dear friend Ashish? What's the answer for the first question? See, and if you notice, everything is supported by the passage, right? It's a very direct question. What's the answer for the first question, guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's it? Which of the following does not stem from popular wisdom? The answer is, see, it's right here, Baba. Thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom. If popular wisdom is here, thinking of language as an instinct inverts the popular wisdom. It completely contradicts what popular wisdom is. Language is an instinct, popular wisdom. Got it? Huh. So it has to be 2, no? Language is an instinct. Yes. Super. Next. Which of the following can be used to replace the spiders know how to spin webs? We already saw that in the first paragraph, that first chunky paragraph. Let's look at our options. Option 1. A kitten learning to jump over a wall. Bees collecting nectar. A horse running a derby. A pet dog protecting its own property. What do you think is spiders know how to spin webs? A child speaking a language, all these, what can you compare to from the options? Which is more natural, which cannot be taught to any of these species? Come on, you can do this. What's a derby? Just in case you don't know. What does that mean? A derby is a flat race for like 3-year-old horses to run, okay? So, yeah. Everything else, if you look at a kitten, see, it says the first one you can quickly eliminate. A kitten learning to jump. So something is learnt there. Obviously, we're not talking about an instinct. Bees collecting nectar, on the other hand, it's an instinct. It's a biological thing. It's like how children speak the language, right? Horse running a derby, again, acquired. A pet dog protecting its own property, acquired, right? Bees collecting nectar. Yes. Third question, according to the passage, which of the following is unique to human beings? Unique to human beings. We kept seeing that also. But before we go to the passage, let's just look at the options quickly. 1. Ability to use symbols while communicating with one another. Ability to communicate with one another through voice modulation. Ability to communicate information to another species members. Ability to use sound as means of communication. Which one of this? Or all of the above? What is unique to human beings? So, if I look at a new exclusive characteristic of human beings, which one of it is? Which one of these are? Unique to human beings. There has been research done that other species can actually communicate with other species. Like monkeys can communicate to human beings, dogs can communicate to human beings. But guys, please keep in mind, don't go by just logic and knowledge. According to the passage, not just what you know. What is the passage saying that it is unique to human beings? Obviously option 2, boss. Right? It says that in the first paragraph. It says that again throughout, in fact in the second paragraph it says In nature's talent show, we are simply a species of primate with our own a knack for communicating information about who did what to whom by modulating the sounds we make when we exhale. Meaning what? Voice modulation. According to the passage is only referring to this. See, that's why I pointed out to that line in the question. According to the passage, which of the following is unique to human beings? We might be able to do all this, boss. Symbols, communicating to other species, yeah? Voice modulation, yeah? Okay, let's move on. In fact, it says here, see, why would I not say 5 is, all of the above is, because here it says, see, one of the options says, like for example, option 1 says ability to use symbols while communicating with one another. But the passage is actually contradicting that. It says here, it is not a manifestation of a general capacity to use symbols. 3-year-old, we shall see, is a grammatical genius. So it's contradicting that option 1. So you actually can't say all of the above. Okay, got it? We may use symbols as we grow up, we develop certain codes and how to communicate to other species. That might be the case. But the passage is saying it's not just about using symbols, because kids don't use symbols to communicate. That's what they're saying. So it's contradicting option 1. I can't say all of the above. Yeah, voice modulation, that's the one. That is what is unique. Let's move on. Next one. According to the passage, the complexity of language cannot be taught by parents or at school to children as by options. Children instinctively know language. Children learn the language on their own. Language is not amenable to teaching. Children know language better than their parents and teachers. None of these. This is an easy one. What's the answer for this? What is the answer? Language is not amenable to teaching. What is the meaning of amenable? Just so we get that out of the way, right? I'm sure a lot of you don't know what that means. Amenable means language is not amenable to teaching. The third point is basically saying language is not capable or susceptible to teaching. That is just doesn't make sense, no? It's illogical. Basically what 3 is saying is language is not controlled by teaching or persuaded by teaching. That doesn't make sense. No, it cannot be option 3. And somebody came and said, did somebody say option 4? Okay, nobody said option 4. 2, somebody said 2. Children learn the language on their own. Yeah, that might be the case. Look at the question. According to the passage, the complexity of language cannot be taught by parents or at school to children as instinct. If I have to choose between 1 and 2, I will choose 1 is a more effective option, right? See, please understand, children don't learn the language on their own. It is an instinct, them just listening. It's a biological ability, right? To just listen and speak the language. There's some sort of a framework. The framework is that parents are talking that language, right? That's how the child is able to. See, my husband and I are talking in Malayalam, or my husband and I are talking in Tamil at home, right? That's why my child is able to pick up that language. It's not like they're completely learning it on their own. There is some framework. There is some base, right? So the most effective one would be option 1, instinct. Instinct to pick up that language. I am not taking time in a daily basis and teaching Malayalam or teaching Tamil to my kid. We are talking, the child is able to grasp it, right? So 1. Last question, which of the following best summarizes the passage? Super, let's look at it. Language is unique to Homo sapiens. Language is neither learned nor taught. Language is instinctive ability of human beings. Language is use of symbols unique to human beings. None of these. What is it? Such type of questions will take some time to come at least into the bank model exam. This is definitely a CAT or a GMAT type of a question. Okay? No, but see, if you ask me actually, Ashish, it's not a very difficult passage. Like, if you forget about the complex sentences and all the new and unfamiliar words, predominantly I can figure out what the theme is. It's about language. There is some comparisons here and there, right? Basically, they're saying, boss, language is something instinct. That's all it is. The entire passage is revolving around that. And there are some other pointers, blah, blah, blah. right? So as most of you rightly pointed out, the answer is definitely option 3. Language is instinctive ability of human beings. Finished. Khatam. This is what is the central theme. Everything else is extra. Extra. In fact, this is contradicting, the passage contradicts this. Language is neither learnt nor taught. Maybe a secondary issue, I can talk about it. Language is unique to human beings, yes, of course. But what is the central theme? Language is instinctive ability of human beings. That is why it is unique to human beings, right? The central message is instinct. Because of that, it is unique to human beings. Because we use voice modulation, it is unique to human beings, right? Language is neither learnt or taught is, again, these are all extra points. Language is use of symbols unique to human beings. The passage contradicted that. We had that question, right? Earlier in the earlier question we saw that, right? The passage said that it's not just symbols because children don't use symbols and learn, so it can't be 4. Now, see if you look at it, for the most part, when I read the passage and when I look at the questions, I should still be able to figure out the answers to these questions even without going back to the passage. Why? Because most of it is just logical reasoning. Like most of your CAT GMAT questions will only test your logical reasoning ability. I mean, reading comprehension as such does that, but even more so, CAT and GMAT does that, okay? They only test your ability to reason things, understand logically what the passage is conveying, right? So this will happen if you are able to relate to the passage. The reason why you are able to understand the passage is because when I explain it, I use a lot of personal life experience examples, right? You should also be able to do that when you're, in terms of reading comprehension. It will be easier for you to get the gist of what the passage is about, especially passages like this. So some of us who are overthinking, saying, oh no, imagine if we get this passage. The questions are very, very direct. It does not test your patience. It's not something that you have to, analyze and break your head and read through the lines, nothing. Most of the questions are very, very direct. All the answers are supported by the passage.